Good evening, good afternoon, good night, good morning, depending upon where you're at in the world. Chris Brock here with ChatGPT for Business and Life, primary hosting. We have a really interesting show for you tonight. Joining me tonight is John Salisbury with Nexigen. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Hey, Chris, how you doing? Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, man, it's been an exciting couple months in AI. It's been really cool to see some of the action that we just have in our local community. And it's great to really see some of the stuff that's happening online, really around the world. Like AI is really taking every conversation by storm.
Yeah, out of control. Like there's a new release every 5 minutes.
It's
And a lot
hard.
a lot of failures too. It's just catching news, like good or bad. Like I think everybody's scared, I think is what it is. Like everybody's really nervous and like they're unsure. And there's a lot of like these peripheral kind of conversations going on. And I feel like there's a little bit of lack of understanding and people just get scared. And then it's like, then it's clickbait. And then media is like media frenzy, right?
That's definitely right. Like what I'm seeing is that in technology, most people tend to be leery of it unless they're a technologist. So they almost fear all technology. And now you have this AI that's so capable that it's just a whole different level of education and understanding that sort of needs to happen over the next year or so, just so people feel a little bit more comfortable of where this stuff's at and where it's going.
Yeah, I agree. And with the new tools, though, people are just getting used to them. So we have the language models. Everybody's kind of comfortable with that. And then we have the action models. Everybody's like not even sure what that is. And then we've got like physics engines, foundational models. Like what the heck are these and how do they apply? I mean, it's crazy. Insanity. There's so many cool things coming out.
It's a whole new frontier. And I think it's such a chasm, too, of understanding where this is going and all the impacts across the board. And I think that, artificial intelligence is a term and a science and a study. It's been around for a very long time. Dartmouth, I think like in the 50s, essentially termed artificial intelligence. MIT came up with their computer science and artificial intelligence lab 60 years ago. So AI has been around for a long time. The idea of visual AI or sentiment analysis with AI, or just data sorting with AI, has really been around for the last 20 years. Machine learning with AI, but I'm like in this generative AI stuff. So like almost like a Gen AI junkie, is what I heard Paul Baer talk about where he's at. So I think I join him as I'm probably like a Gen AI junkie, and I think that's what people are most interested in. They don't know how it works, but the most interesting thing, no matter where you're walking into it, is the easiest to use right off of just turning it on and starting to use it, asking it questions.
Yeah, it's super easy. It's unbelievable how easy it is. I'm kind of like, I don't. It's weird that people like can't get started. It's like, where do we get started? Where do we get started? It's like, just start. Like it's not hard.
Right.
Just let your people get creative and then listen what they're doing. I feel like they'll teach you. But you got that cool project with your video system, which I think is like a really cool application. That like I saw you kind of have the idea and then the progress on it, and I've kind of gotten touch points, and that's just like an amazing use case right there. So like. And you pull together a bunch of different technologies, and then I just see it pop up, and you're like, I got Netflix for AI training, like in like a week.
Right. So thank you for that. Like it is pretty cool. So for everybody, we're sort of launching this project, sort of open source community. I've really been thinking about how do you help people? Like we have this great community. We have 250,000 people that interact with us or follow us, and we're reaching millions of people a month. But being in a Facebook feed is like very fast, and it's very tough to keep up. And sometimes content that was created 3 months ago is really, really good, but it only lasts in a feed for 3 days. But if you can have a curated place where you can have that premium AI education or podcast or talks or demos in a curated way, I feel that would just help me if I was new to AI. So thank you for definitely mentioning it. And I'm hoping to share it more within the group. So it's this concept of, Netflix for AI content. So
Yeah, just scroll through and like there's all this interesting stuff and the search works. And like I was playing around with it and I'm like, this is cool because a lot of those videos I've seen and I'm like, oh, that was a great one. Oh, this was a good one. This was a good one. And it just kind of made it easy because you don't have to like stumble around. It just kind of pick a topic and go and then and learn. And I see all these groups like Coursera and like LinkedIn Learning and all these other places. They're trying to like get you into these little courses. And I watched like 2 or 3 of them, and they're not as like I get better information on these videos that you have up here than I do in those courses, and they're more engaging and they're more interesting. And I don't feel like I need to fast forward through all the stuff that I've already learned before. So it's all kind of net new, top level stuff. So I don't know. I felt like it was easier for my kind of learning style. Yeah, there's a picture of it right there. It looks awesome.
Yeah. So this is
So you did that so fast. Like some companies would take a year and a half to like put that together. Did that, like,
so it's amazing like what you can do with technology now. Like there's so many things that I think really just mobile phones and social media and technology in general were enablement platforms. And now with AI, we have this ultimate enablement platform. No doubt
Mhm.
about it. So being able to put this together, it's just amazing that there's things that are out there that you can combine and make something net new, like you're mentioning. So if you go to this site, we'll make sure to share it. It's aionlineclassroom.com/TV. You can search it. We have some other things we're adding to it, but essentially there's a discovering AI portion that's going to let you see all the thought leaders, Sam Altman, Greg Brockman, any of the people that have been fundamental in the AI movement. All their talks are there. If you want to learn about AI, for me, that's who I want to learn from, you know. And I found that YouTube, like, it was just based on too many factors that took me away from AI or my focus, you know. So I think that hopefully this brings some value. If you want to learn about AI platforms, that's another one that I think is really cool. Like I could do workshops on Hugging Face or Pinecone or custom GPT.ai or building GPTs or whatever it may be. Or we could just show you the person that developed it and his team and or her team, and they're just going to tell you how to build it, and they probably are going to do it better, right?
Yeah.
So that was sort of the goal, and I hope it becomes something in this sort of community that is helpful. Now, with that, there is another section here. Okay, so I was thinking Netflix for AI, learning management because I think that's important, but also connections to solutions. So one of the things I think you have some background on, and we can play a couple of videos I have queued up, and then we can talk about some of these large language models, these foundational models, right, John, that are really the core of how a lot of this AI is going to work. And we can
Yep.
even get into the open AI side of things this evening. But this is another part of the site. I don't know if you've seen this, but it
Yeah,
just
you've got them ranked, and that's really cool. So you have basically a 10-star
so
system. You can visit. I haven't seen this yet.
so no one's really seen it other than myself. Like, and with that, the grading system, let's not go with the star system so much. Like, I
Oh,
don't know which one's better. You know what I mean?
it's fine though. You're putting an actual like. It's cool that you can actually see that. It might be cool eventually to have people like actually be able to say, "Oh, I rate it like this," but who knows how that would look. But this actually makes
Yeah.
sense. And Gemini's high, Copilot's high. That makes a lot of sense.
And you can get here and you can just click some buttons and you can get to it. You can sign up for an account. Most of these play things, if you're using any type of AI, sometimes you just got to use it, you know, like, so having a conduit of just like things that, hey, if you don't have an open AI account, this is where open AI is at. Here's where Bing's at first. Here's where Copilot's at. Right. And then have some pros and cons, the categories, you know, and a very just base overview of some of these AIs. So I just felt that compiling that, you know, just sort of made sense. And yeah, moving right
That's all.
along.
Let me see that list you have real quick. Can you scroll through it again? I was wanted to see kind of, you have Grok on there. Did you put the new Grok that came in? That's like lightning fast. I don't know if you had that on there yet.
Okay,
There's so
so
many.
all I know is that you click here and I can't get, I guess I got to like apply and
Yeah,
get
you gotta
early
have premium.
access, right?
Yeah.
And like pay another $20 a month. Like I'm picking up so many like AI accounts left and right. But
Yeah, they
they're all
cost
here.
on there. Yeah, they cost a bit. Amazon's Bedrock is going to be solid. I think that's running on Anthropic, right?
Well, it's
Or
it's
they
almost like
build
an
their
entire ecosystem,
own.
right? Where Amazon Titan, it's foundation models, and like some of these open source AI models are being hosted obviously on Amazon, and they're sort of giving an AI front end on how you can start loading on if you want to start using some of these um, open source owned AIs. That's what I think Amazon's coming into
Yeah.
um, into the market as that leader. I think it's easier to work with OpenAI or probably a Gemini product in the Google suite if that's what you're going to utilize in the future. But I think that there's a lot of interesting use cases for open source AI, and we'll see it through the Amazon sort of
Yeah, I
ecosystem.
didn't really know if Bedrock was actually their own model, or if they were. I knew that they had big investment with Anthropic, so I didn't know. I thought they might be going down that path, because I know Titan and Bedrock were kind of their two sort of offerings. But you're saying
Mhm.
that they're really going to be just driving open source adoption. I didn't know that.
Well, they'll have their product line, but I think they're just an enablement platform for hosting AIs. Is like, and I think that's how they're going to be the win. And on the overview, that's why I put like sort of Meta, open source, and Hugging Face, which I would put Meta up higher. Honestly, Llama is probably a pretty cool model.
Yeah.
You can see what they're doing in their space too. They're releasing a lot of open source content, and then Hugging Face is probably that community of the hub of open source AIs in general. I don't know if Hugging Face. Whoa.
Got a glitch, huh? 503.
Uh, this isn't me. Hugging
Really?
Face is down. It's in
Really?
maintenance mode.
Really?
Well, that's interesting. Check that out.
Face.co. Let's check it out. We'll go to uptime. Yeah, it is down. Wow.
Well, so sort of discovered something tonight. That's sort of interesting.
Yeah,
They're sort of a big platform. Where are you going to download your open AI right now? Not open AI, the company, but open source AI, for your models.
Yeah. Well, it says it on their status page, status.huggingface.co. It says down right now, like literally today. And they had another outage earlier down for 4 hours and 34 minutes. That was in the last 90 days. So that's just their Hugging Face hub. Their API was down a little while ago, but today, yeah, they're down on their Git host and serving, as well as their Hugging Face hub right now. Crazy.
I know they've launched a chat system that they were sort of opening up their own chat hosted. That's very interesting. I mean, all of these companies went down. Like when I first started using OpenAI, custom or like the Chat GPT interface with 3. The first week it sort of opened up to users. I was breaking it all the time, and then it was very glitchy the first month or two. Like it would definitely just be down. But I think that's what gave OpenAI the ability to jump out there above Google. Like what we saw this week was Google, having a hard time because they've launched a model that didn't work well. Microsoft has done the same. So I think these big tech companies sort of sat on the sideline working on this major technology, but not releasing it. And OpenAI had a lot less to lose to launch it. And even they knew they could fail, right?
It's weird though. I think I sent you that video with Demis Hassabis. I think that's how I say his name right. But he was doing an interview this weekend. Like it was like on Friday, and somebody asked him. Maybe it was on Thursday last week, but it was just recent. It was like right when all the image stuff was going down, and they were talking to him, asking him about the actual image generation for historical figures not having the right ethnicity and stuff. And he just answered the question live. He's like, "Oh, I just found out about this like a few hours ago." He's like, interesting that happened, and then kind of walked through how it was odd, and they have trouble training, and some of their fine tuning like in guardrails might have been off, but it should be cleared up quickly. So he didn't even like think it was that big a deal, and then the media just amplified it like boom, 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 boom. But you remember when we were first using 3.5 and ChatGPT? I mean, that thing would say incredible things. Like you're like, what is this thing trying to convince me of? Like it's out of control, but Yeah, you're right. It's like that lag effect. We have such short-term memory. We don't remember that just like 6 months ago, like GPT was saying awful things to us like nonstop. It's weird.
Right. Well, I think a lot of people don't realize, like when they talk about like responsibility and safety, like they've started putting on guardrails on things, and then when they put the guardrails on, it impacts other areas of inquiry in this like natural language system that we're working with AI. So it's sort of almost like the butterfly effect, where in
And
chaos.
quality, right? And quality, because it's like people like
Right.
using the older version of GPT. They have it on the store. People will choose that over the new version because it's got less guardrails. It's actually easier. It's more creative, and it'll come up with more interesting arguments and so forth. It's almost gets you almost confine it so much with guardrails that it becomes less interesting, right? So it's like
Yeah.
you can overmanage from what I heard, but like you want corporate guardrails, I feel like, to match your brand voice and all that kind of stuff. Like you want, because you had like the Air Canada thing, like obviously it had a big mess and the corporate guardrails were bypassed. So
Right.
that to me, you need corporate guardrails and you need to be able to make them adhere to. But it's just interesting that like OpenAI can do whatever it wants. Like they're bulletproof. Like if their thing started producing images of the wrong people, they would just ignore it and just let it keep producing. And then they would run a fix in like a month and they would deal with the bad press. And Sam Altman would go out and say, hey, we need $7 trillion more to fix this. I don't know.
Well, that's a lot of money. That's for sure a lot of money. So yeah, it's definitely interesting when we're talking about guardrails and the impact that guardrail does have. One of the big things we saw this week, Gemini launched, right? So there's this gigantic story of, and it's not even just like a meme. There was an issue with Gemini's image creation feature that it was overfitted for diversity in areas where it wouldn't logically make sense. So there's a big backlash. I actually have a video that I wanted to play that we can check out that talks exactly about this story, and maybe we can get your feedback on that after this, John.
After some controversy, Google is now planning to relaunch its Gemini artificial intelligence picture generator in the next few weeks. The company paused the tool earlier this month after users discovered historical inaccuracies and concerning responses in the tool. Google's DeepMind CEO addressed this yesterday.
That, which is a well-intended feature, was applied, it turns out, too bluntly across all of it. So then, in cases where you ask something historical, like give me medieval kings of England, depictions from the 16th century, then of course that should be a much narrower distribution that you give back. And we care, of course, about historical accuracy, so we've taken that feature offline while we fix that.
Maria Curie joins us now to discuss. She's a tech policy reporter at Axios. Thanks so much for being with us this morning, Maria. So start by explaining what Gemini 1.5 really is and what changes come with this latest relaunch.
So what's different about Gemini 1.5 Pro is really its ability to handle a lot more data at a time. So to give you a sense of what Google's competitors can do right now, Anthropic's Claude can handle 200,000 tokens at a time. OpenAI's ChatGPT can handle 128,000 tokens at a time. And Google's Gemini went from being able to handle just 32,000 tokens to 1 million tokens.
Wow.
So tokens, I mean words, images, video, audio, and code. And really what that translates to is an hour of video, 11 hours of audio, more than 30,000 lines of code, more than 700,000 words. And so why this matters is the bigger the context the chatbot can pull from, the bigger the universe, the more useful the output is for consumers and the more use cases there will be.
Okay, yeah.
Dude, Demis is like the smartest AI guy on the planet. Like I don't know, people don't remember Black and White, the first AI in video games. In fact, when he was a kid, he won the World Games Championship at like 15 years old, which is where you play chess and like 5 other or 20 other board games. He like was the world champion. Plus, he's like a top rated chess player in his country, plus worldwide. I mean, the guy's brilliant. I would say now's a good time to invest in Google. If the stock's down 90 billion, like you're just getting free money on that. Like they're going to crush, in my opinion. So it was a mistake. They screwed up all that bad stuff, but they'll fix and they'll crush. I mean, one point, the guy, he said they were doing 10 million tokens. Like he said, it's possible to do 10 million, like legit. Ridiculous.
That's
like
phenomenal. On the amount of synthesis of data, 1 million tokens.
They said 1 million, but in his interviews, he said he said they went to 10 million. He's like 1.5 million was the ultra, but he said they in practice they were able to keep it at 10 million and maintain coherence, which is literally 10 times more than they're publicly offering, which means they can just scale up and ramp up even more. Like he literally said that. I forget which interview it was. But the guy, like I think they're ready, they're primed to just really take off. And then it gives us a duality. So we don't only have one vendor, ChatGPT, that's it. We want Google to be there as well. And then we want them to push each other.
Absolutely. I think that's always a better ecosystem. Plus, like it's probably going to be better to have a native Copilot if you're in the Microsoft Office 365 environment or Gemini, and you're probably not going to see a Gemini over into the Office 365 native, and you're just not really going to see that. So they own the Office. I've heard some talks about Elon Musk offering an email client out of Twitter, and like I think that's who owns that and sort of space that Microsoft and Google really own. They own the Office. The cloud office.
Why is like it's so weird? Why is email so important? Like it's like the staple for everything. Like it's just freaking email. Like it's so simple. There used to be 10,000 services, and now I'm paying money for email because the security is so painful to deal with.
Right.
I feel like there should be a new email service that gets built, but in order for you to email me, there's like a proxy. So you basically send me an email, like Chris Brock's like, I want to email John Salisbury. I have his email address. When you do, it sends me a notification that says, do you approve this guy to email you? And then now I can email that person. So that way you can email me without knowing me, but there's an intermediary. And then you kind of begin. It's kind of like encrypted email. We just make that default. And then the spam just goes away because you just won't, like some random person emailing you spam, like that kind of feature, just put it in place and then just kill. Because like Office, you use Word, Excel, and you use Outlook, and you use a couple other apps, but they have like 50 more that they've just added in. And you're like, I don't even really use those that much. Like occasionally, like Teams, I guess, and some other stuff like that. But Google is the same thing. I don't know which one do you prefer, Google or Microsoft on that side?
I think it really depends on what, from my experience, it's how old your organization or company really is. You're sort of stuck. If you've been in Microsoft and Exchange and you've been in a company for 30 years or 50 years, you're in Microsoft, or maybe like there's a higher level security one that you're doing, but or you're a startup or you're a tech company that's been around in the last 15 years. I think Google sort of got to the Office online cloud quicker than Microsoft. Microsoft didn't have to say yes to that. So that Google really opened up some good offerings there and really made it easy to API it. So if you're a startup, I recommend Google. Yeah.
It's so fast. Like I love Google because you don't have any legacy apps. It's just super streamlined, but we sell Microsoft like crazy at my company, and we migrate people from Google to Microsoft or from Microsoft to Google all the time. It's complicated, but you can do it. There's tons of ecosystems built around just moving companies. Like I think we moved like something like 12,000 users across 45 different companies that all got bought by some big private equity group. We could have done it in like 30 days, but just communicating with everyone, because there's so many different management groups. That it probably took like 9 months, but that's like pretty quick. You can kind of stage them, and there's all sorts of validation points, and you can do migrations and stuff. So we've interacted with that a lot. I find it funny that there's like this giant ecosystem of just tools to just migrate companies when they get annoyed with one vendor. There's only one other place to go. Like,
right. Well, yeah, there's only a couple games in town. And I do like your analogy going back to the AI side. It's good that, you'd have other AIs. It should be more than just OpenAI, Microsoft.
Yeah.
That was sort of the spirit of how they developed OpenAI, was to be a nonprofit, knowing that what they were getting ready to release was going to be so impactful that it was going to be an innovation that was just a paradigm shift, right?
Yeah, and we're gonna take the money and give it back to society once we disrupt it. Like that was the methodology or philosophy behind it. Crazy.
Yeah, and then Microsoft sort of said, okay, well, we're going to buy it. And like, it sort of ramped past, I think, like the traditional sort of like VC hype. They almost like they got their deal with Microsoft. That's who you exit to if you're, that's the end game. So they got to the end game very fast and were able to keep some autonomy in it. And
I mean, from what I heard, Microsoft owns 50% of the sub company, so not the primary. So they don't actually own the stack. That's one. And then two, I heard they only have licensing rights up to GPT-5. But OpenAI is leveraged with Microsoft because they need the compute.
Right.
So like they need that compute, and Microsoft's got this compute deal with them because Google has all these excess processors, and they're able to just give it to their team to just do research and all this crazy stuff. OpenAI kind of has that same relationship. So they're kind of leveraged to each other. I feel like that's why Sam wants the $7 trillion is because he doesn't want to be beholden to anybody. Like he wants to be the man and do whatever he wants, wherever he wants. Just give me my own data centers.
All the data centers. I'm still trying to calculate that much capital in an ask. So I give him credit. Like I've seen some phenomenal asks, and he's the pinnacle.
He has no fear. No fear. $70 billion, 70 trillion. I mean, why seven? Like I remember you saying that on your chat group. You're like, why is it 7 trillion? Like, why isn't it 70 trillion or something like that? I think you said. And it's like, I don't know. Just pick a number. Like,
yeah, pick 7 trillion sounds good. 10% of the like the monetary fund of the entire world sounds good. But to switch up slightly, let's see what Sam Altman. He sort of says that there's an issue on how people are looking at AI and what they're expecting it to do. We're talking about Office 365 and Google for Work in your email, in your spreadsheets, helping you knock out PowerPoint super quick with AI. That's coming. That's here. That's a little bit mundane for our jobs and tasks. It's not the Terminator sort of AI robots fixing everybody's life and changing everything for the better. So let's listen to what Sam has to say, and we'll come right back.
I think some of the surprises will be of you didn't realize it reached that far.
I think the biggest like systemic mistake in thinking people are making right now is they're like, all right, maybe I was skeptical, but this language model thing is really going to work, and sure, like images, video too. But it's not going to be generating net new knowledge for humanity. It's just going to like do what other people have done, and that's still great. That's still like brings the marginal cost of intelligence very low. It's not going to go like create fundamentally new. It's not going to go cure cancer. It's not going to add to the sum total of human scientific knowledge. And that is what I think will turn out to be wrong, that most surprises the current experts in the field.
So, do you think AI is going to be able to create net new knowledge?
I do, actually. I do think it's going to be able to, and it's incremental. It already has, because they had that. I forget what mathematician it was, but it invented some new math. And I remember you created Brock geometry or something like that. But that Brockian geometry,
Brockian spiral, yes.
Brockian spiral. But I think there is possibility because it's combining, right? So it has the knowledge trees, and then it combines them, and then I think it's like an incremental. Like as it combines, I think it can come up with like look at the images. Like it can combine a penguin with a dragon with a ferret. Like that's sort of unique. That's interesting. So in the combination process, I think there's like new variants, which maybe appears as like novel or sparks novel application. Yeah, Brockian.
Yeah.
Spiral.
No, so I'm with you. I think that if sometimes knowledge, if you just have a lot of it and it's synthesized, and you can find some commonalities and some general rules within a big data set, you might be able to discover actionable insights that make a difference in how you handle something in the future. So I definitely think these AI models can create new knowledge, or they can actually be verifiable. And in this case, I think that if you use logic with an AI model, it can not only like understand it and adhere to the rules that you're setting in natural language, but a lot of people do believe that AIs are like a randomness engine, right? Like it's always a new random setup or a new random.
The psychotic parrot, right? Like it's just parroting whatever that, I forget what that study was.
Yeah, like yeah, for sure. Like it's sort of parroting or something like that. What's interesting, and it'd always be randomized. What I found through this experiment was that you can use a logical understanding to get a definitive outcome out of, in this case, ChatGPT. I also tried it with an Anthropic, but Anthropic doesn't have the DALL-E integration. It really doesn't have the Python integration either, where now with ChatGPT, you can have like a coding interface, or it can write Python, or you can have like the Wolfram Alpha app.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can do all types of stuff, but this was just native. This was like using its native interface, which it went into a Python and then went into this graphing interface. But these images are generated right from the ChatGPT interface. So really cool that happened. And a lot of people that are making these discoveries are creating probably this net new knowledge.
Yeah, you look at like what do we call net new knowledge? We challenge first principles on the base assumptions, right? So like we're like, hey, we're going to create a new knowledge tree. Well, we got to go back and challenge the core to that whole knowledge tree, specifically in like math and physics. So they go back. Thank you for putting Exogen up there. But you have to go back and do first principles analysis and challenge all your base assumptions. I mean, that's pretty important in novel discoveries. So as they build, exactly like you're saying, that logic, and then you're adding in like foundational world models where it actually understands like a sense of physics. It has a model of the world. I mean, you start combining that into the equation. I don't see why it wouldn't have novel understanding. I mean, it's moving in a direction where it's going to be building its own sensors and it's going to be looking at things in different ways. I mean, that's where it gets weird, because how does it communicate back, in my mind? So that's a little bit far out there. But today, I mean, there's all sorts of, I think today, like what can the model do? Well, that's based on our ability to use it. It's an unbelievable dynamic tool. Can we come up with clever enough, like come up with our own Brockian spirals?
Yeah, well, that's one cool way. Like, I mean, I'm sort of a logical guy and love math and whatever, and I really like pure number theory. I was sort of into that for a while in college. So that was me. But what I'm finding, what I think is awesome now, is that people are really leveraging their creativity to create like new information or new imagery. I don't know if you saw that, some of these images that were probably generated with Midjourney this week, but A, I think they totally rock. B, I think it's hilarious, but super realistic. And before, you would think that somebody that created this would be the best photo editor of all time, and we're just a Photoshop wizard, right? And now someone's created this and shared it into these new group communities of just AI imagery creation, and it's really picking up and lifting. And I don't know if I would consider this like net new knowledge, but it is a type of creativity that I feel is novel and could be important for people to express themselves, like almost using the AI as like an expression engine of their thought, right? So I don't know if that's like net new ideas, but to me, I definitely feel it's like a net new creative output in conjunction with people.
To me, it's an interface with creatives, because I'm not able to generate things like that in Photoshop. Like my brother's crazy on Photoshop and like digital art and so forth, and he would be able to dial in like you're talking about. He creates 3D sculptures and created like a replica of a Porsche 911, like down to the point where he's selling that model through like digital object sites and so forth. But he can dial it into precision. But for me, I need to get like 15 ideas to send to that creative so I can give them some ideas and guidance, right? So for me, it's just a thought, it speeds up the idea, the conceptual process, because I can put in some random thoughts that kind of what I'm thinking about. And then I can basically filter out, okay, bad, good, bad, good. Then I can send them over. It's much easier for them to understand. So it just speeds up the process. I'm still using the human. It's not going to dial in exactly what you want, but gosh, those rock climbing photos are ridiculous. That's so realistic. The philosophy part of me though goes, what will the kids do? Like, will the kids trust what they see on the screen at all? Like, or is it just all fantasy at some point? Because we got so much junk content going online, right? So like will in person matter that much more, and will they actually ignore content because it's like that's not that exciting because they just put in a prompt to generate this like guy flipping over like on his bike 5 times, whereas today that guy might die when he does that.
Sure. Well, all big things to consider. Like I looked at this. Like there's a philosopher named John Bolyard, French philosopher, and he wrote a couple really great philosophy books. But I remember one of his major philosophy sort of topics were about the introduction of screens, especially screens within a warfare environment that would desensitize the warfighter. You know, and I think that was writings from the 80s. So I think now, no doubt, we're a screened world. We live on our screens. They're a big part of our life and this interactivity. So now how to interact with screens and then interact with AI and understand what truth is and actuality is. It's going to be a challenge. And my true opinion of it is that it's going to be a challenge that we're going to have to face. And it's not going to be something that you're just going to be a Luddite and hide out. And it's not going to like impact you. Like understanding what you can see. Like there's been a long time that you couldn't believe what you see. You know, Photoshop was sort of developed by government agencies like Stalin that would remove people in his imagery, you know, in Cold War and like wartime.
Remove them in the imagery and in reality.
True. Yes, big time. So I think we are moving into it's always a perennial problem is what I guess I'm going to try to say is that deception or not knowing all the truths, that's just a perennial problem, you know, but I do think there's some universal truths out there that if we can help with critical thinking and help educating the youth that we have a better shot of them using AI for the better and the betterment of good. And, you know, that's definitely the big hope. And that's why I got a special guest coming on this evening. I want to introduce you, John, to, this is my daughter, Ariana.
Nice.
Okay.
Hey, Ariana. How's it going?
And she's worked on a little bit of a special project. What I'm going to do, we're going to check out this 30-second video, John, and then I'm going to explain, she's going to explain to us what she was doing. And we can talk about sort of exactly what we were just sort of covering. How are we going to face AI for our families, our friends, and our daily life?
Ariana, nice to meet you. Looking forward to the video.
Things that I hear a lot is parents of small kids talking about how every night their kids just want to make up stories with GPT-4. And there seems to be like unending appetite for this from some kids. Some children are able to far outweigh what some adults are able to do with coming up with really creative stories and just being fluent quickly with a new way to use this technology.
We tell a new story every night and we kind of say, what do you want a story on? And I have a dragon and a teddy bear and an astronaut on a ballot. And you're like, okay. And I know even with GPT-3, let alone GPT-4, people have written children's stories, illustrating sometimes through DALL-E, and have published those.
So with that, I think that like there's obviously, I didn't create that video. Like there's a lot of interest for people, families creating stories at home that are meaningful just to them, you know, tailored little stories. And we started this about a year ago. And, you know, I played around with it first and was prompting it. But Ariana's a quick learner. And what have we been working on?
Well, I've been working on a story
that she created that I'm going to show the screen here. So Ariana, what did you use to create your story?
Well, ChatGPT.
Oh, cool.
And what did you do? What made it write the story?
Well, I like reading Harry Potter books, especially, and like fantasy fiction. And I just thought, well, if I write a book, well, why don't I write it with some of that, like, with it?
With the AI. So long story short, just the other night, she had this idea of like, Dad, can I use ChatGPT? And if it's in a guided, focused way and I'm in the room, like I let my daughter use AI. I don't let her use it just anytime or anything like that. So I think parents should still be involved. But what's amazing, she was able to put together a multi-chapter book and illustrate it with amazing illustrations. Some of the most amazing illustrations that I do believe that people would have paid for just 2 years ago as amazing art, and now this can be generated by a 10-year-old at such an amazing level that I don't know how, like new stories, like the whole publication of new stories. I don't know how that paradigm is going to interact with this AI world, but I do know it's amazing that you can enable someone to create their own stories in a way that just wasn't even possible before. So
Yeah, I mean, writing a book is a whole new process now, I would assume. Like, I haven't written one before. Have you written a book, Brian?
Research papers and some university stuff, but never like decided to write a book. And I'm more of like a nonfiction person, so I got to really explore what I'd want as a fiction version. How about
Gotcha.
yourself? You haven't yet, huh?
No, not yet. I'm your daughter looks like she might be the next Harry Potter novelist here soon.
Yeah, J.K. Rowling. So thanks for joining us tonight, Ariana. I just thought it was so cool that we saw this video, that it's not just us. If you do have a family at home and you really are wondering how to use AI, that's the perfect use case. Just start writing a story. We started with our family and our family members, and we were heroes. And we got it trained so well that it would do episodic episodes where we could say, okay, we're going to New Orleans, and it would pick the villain's pet, because we have a dog. So our dog would be part. We were all musicians. We all played an instrument. We fought the bad actor, played amazing sort of concerts, and then we had our headquarters in Cincinnati by the Roebling Bridge.
So that sounds fun. You can do like a choose your own adventure with it, I guess. I haven't tried that with my family. I should. It'd be fun.
Yeah. Oh, and you can do that. So that's what we like. Once you start building your prompts and it's knocking this out, you can start saying, okay, well, make this a build your own adventure. And it would say, okay, you landed in New Orleans. Who do you want to send out to scout where the bad actor is, or like get the clues first, and I'm send Ariana out, and it would write the whole story about her going out. And if you always have it saying like, oh, well, add historical context, or add things that if you go to this city, you would see the Eiffel Tower if you're in Paris, so it's very cliche sort of tourism, but the AI knows all this and is able to construct stories that are just phenomenal. And now with DALL-E being built in, where you can now, like we were in the beginning, creating the text story in ChatGPT, then going to Midjourney. And Midjourney was sort of a leap to learn, where DALL-E, you could write the story and just say, okay, create an image of it. And it happens. Yeah. And pretty soon it'll be video. So she might become a movie producer.
Well, pretty soon you put your goggles on and you're like, take me to New Orleans, and you'll just go there, right?
Right. So, Ariana, any other AI related ideas that you have?
No.
All right. Well, thank you very much for showing up to the podcast. You gonna hang out here for the rest of it?
Sure.
Okay, so that works. So we got 2 more videos, John, and then we'll wrap this one for this week. Let's see. The next video that I have set up for us is just a nice little overview of what a large language model is. And let's see if this is at a level that a 10-year-old can understand, because if she can understand it, and I feel that I can understand it a little bit, and you understand it, maybe our viewers can too.
Simple Show explains generative AI, large language models, and ChatGPT. Generative AI is a subset of deep learning that creates new content, such as text, images, audio, and video, based on what it's learned from existing content. Large language models, or LLMs, are an advanced form of generative AI. They're trained on a vast amount of text data and learn to understand the patterns, context, and structure of natural human language. Large language models, such as GPT, use their language knowledge to generate coherent and contextually appropriate responses based on the given input. GPT stands for Generative Pre-trained Transformer. It's a general-purpose language model trained on vast amounts of web data. It can perform various tasks, such as content creation, writing code, summarizing text, and extracting data from documents. ChatGPT was developed by OpenAI, a San Francisco-based artificial intelligence lab. It is built upon the GPT architecture and allows text-based conversations with users. Next to text content creation, other use cases of ChatGPT include virtual assistants and customer support. Here at Simple Show, we use AI-based technologies to empower users to create videos at the click of a button, while keeping security and data privacy our top priority. Visit our website to learn more about Simple Show Video Maker, the AI-powered video maker platform.
Nice basic overview of a large language model. Sort of correct. But I think that at that basic level, there's a framework that we see that the AI is trained on words, images, numbers, and sounds in that multimodal. So if anything you're requesting are in that WINS framework, the AI definitely understands and is trained on every data point possible. You're very lucky to live in this new world with an AI.
Yeah.
You know how much John had to code by himself and work so hard to learn, and now you can just use your voice and code. Big deal.
Yeah, but you just got to stay curious, right, and learn why it's doing what it's doing. So I think you're just gonna, like, I feel like AI is such a good teacher, and you're able to learn faster with it. Like anytime I'm tackling a new topic, a lot of times I'm like, if there's a new paper that comes out about AI, maybe it's 220 pages long and it's just so complex, it'll take me like a week to get through. I'll dump it into AI and just ask it like 50 questions about it, and then I know it a lot faster. So you can actually keep pace with complicated topics and understand it a lot better. I feel like it can just walk you through it. Hey, here's what it's trying to get at. Here's the top 10 points. Here's the 20 business cases that potentially could come out of it. I mean, it's crazy how fast you can move through it.
I agree. And I cannot wait till the gamification of education. And this is going to be pretty cool. I actually have a call this week, Dr. Brandon Donnelly of the Intellect Horizon. It's the only 24-hour AI summit. It happened last year. It was very well attended. It's going to happen again this year. But he's trying to gamify education. And I cannot wait till imagine going into your science headset or computer and being able to interact with the Einstein avatar that's able to teach you quantum physics, but speak to you like you're 10. It's going to be phenomenal. And
Amazon's doing that now on their,
yes.
They actually created an online gaming platform where they're doing that with their courses now. And one of my friends works there, a guy named Joe Reinhold. Shout out to Joe Reinhold. But he's trying to get me in there using it more, but it's really cool. I logged in and took a look. It's pretty sweet.
Yeah. So the future, I think, is gamified AIs for learning, and whoever like really embraces that and can do that well. I mean, I was able to dive into a topic and sort of understand it. If you had a personalized AI in your education that's able to deliver whatever you're interested in and whatever the grade topic of the curriculum would be, and reach you at your level, and then make it fun. How great is that? And it's coming. It's coming in your lifetime. It's almost here. It probably doesn't feel like it's here yet.
Do you now, who would you choose to be your teacher? Like, who would be your, like, would it be a different person for each category, or would it be like the same kind of person that you learn from best? That would be like a developed persona.
I think you could almost have an overlay persona of how you like to interact with the AI, but
Yeah.
I would like it to be like, for me, I would like to talk to a philosopher. I would like to talk to Richard Feynman. I'd like to talk to Edmund Husserl. I'm into that. Like, in AI, like especially ChatGPT 3 could do that really well. That was one of the most impressing things I think I've ever had happen to me with the experience of AI was I created something called the I model, which is an intentional systems model. And I always wanted to build something and share something in that phenomenology space. So I obviously started training the AI on my I model and like working on it just to share the logic behind it. And then I started asking it, what would Husserl think of this? What would Edith Stein think of this? And then I was like, you know what? Like, make this a time travel story where I can just pop into different classrooms and here's my model. I want to hear what this person has to say about it. Evaluate it. Let me know exactly your thoughts. And that happened in December of 2022. And that's when I really knew that this was a phenomenal system, even if it was therapeutic and not actual. Maybe Edmund Husserl would say I'm way off base, but the AI definitely made me feel good. And the AI, I feel, was trained so strongly, understanding some of this discourse that, for me, long story short, I would like to interact with the people that introduce that idea to the world.
Well, it's so positive. Like I come up with it with a concept and it's so flattering. Like it's like that's a great idea and maybe you can massage it this way. Like it almost needs to be to be able to challenge you in a way. Like say, hey, that's a bad idea. Like you need to think again and you need to use this logic. And so very instructive. So that's right. Once they get the bells and knobs dialed in, where you're like, hey, move to level 10 on instructiveness and move to level 3 on explainability and or even the persona, like and speak a little bit more like Einstein or Feynman. Like you just type in those little criteria and it just sort of memory. They have memory now in OpenAI now, so they have some capabilities like that. You can once they start dialing that into like key factors, I think it'll be a little easier to interact with.
Well, shout out for one person that's definitely do this, customgpt.ai, one of our sponsors, Alden and his team, absolutely phenomenal with their RAG AI. So this retrieval augmented generation AI is absolutely the future. But what's amazing, I've been really working on some cool AIs on his platform and building a persona around the chatbot, which you can start building logic into as well. And it's a whole different type of programming where you're literally able to, if you have a logical mind and you can remember if then statements and things and conditional logic, you can tell that to your persona and your persona can sort of do that. And so what's crazy is you can even bring it down a level where instead of writing code, you're saying, okay, chatbot, like if it's this scenario, then do this. If it's this, then this. And you can just naturally write a sentence of what you want it to do with some logic, and it will carry out that protocol. And some of the stuff that we're getting it to do are really phenomenal.
Is he able to? Have you seen it where they're taking they're taking RBAC, which is like role-based access control. So they're applying. You take the content, you vectorize it, but then in the vectorization, you create like a knowledge vault. So you can then take that shard and then apply that to only this group. So you're able to keep, even though it kind of like once you put it in the vectorized database traditionally, it sort of becomes available to everyone for all things, but you're able to like kind of attach that shard. Does Custom GPT have that built in yet? I know I've seen groups do it. I just didn't know if they had implemented that yet.
So yeah, I mean, like you could definitely do that with their platform, but I don't know if that's what the core platform offering was for them. There might be better ways.
Maybe it'll be out next week. He's like, yeah, I was working on that. It'll be out next week.
Yeah, maybe, so some of it, like I think the premise, like for the early Gen AI opportunities are the people that can say yes. And unfortunately, like the people that care about security are the last ones on earth that you can convince to say yes quickly.
I would just think it would make it easier because if you have a client like one's Nike or one's Reebok and you want to like segment that, you could still use one language model this way and then separate that kind of like data that you're putting in qualitative. So it actually allows you to scale easier on one language model potentially, right? So it's not just security, it's more like flexibility in my mind, because you almost want to spend up a new LLM for each customer. So maybe I think eventually that's kind of where it's moving, where you're using one model and it's treating multiple disciplines and customers in different use cases, and then you're just attaching those types of like variables to it.
Yeah, well,
Ariana, I'm sorry, I'm speaking in all these crazy fast terms. I apologize. You can correct me and tell me what to do here.
She's happy to be here.
All right,
so,
like
one last thing before we end tonight. Let's. There's a really cool sort of conversation. I don't know how the video is going to look, but with Mark Zuckerberg and open source AI. So I think it sort of plays into what we were talking about. Let's see how this.
Inside the spectrum, you have people who think that it's got the potential to kind of wipe out humanity and we should hit pause on the most advanced systems. And on the other hand, you have the Mark Andreessens of the world who said stopping AI investment is literally akin to murder because it would prevent valuable breakthroughs in the healthcare space. Where do you kind of fall on that continuum?
What you want to prevent is like one organization from getting like way more advanced and powerful than everyone else, because it could lead to some like really uneven outcomes. And the way that the industry has tended to deal with this is by making a lot of infrastructure open source. So that way it can just get rolled out and every piece of software can kind of get incrementally a little bit stronger and safer together. But that's kind of my theory of the case is that yeah, this is going to do a lot more good than harm. I think that this is the best bet for keeping it safe over time and part of the reason why we're pushing in this direction.
Man, Mark Zuckerberg is a force for good. I am so surprised. That guy has made more money off everybody's data than anybody on the planet, right? And then now he's like open source, like it's your data, you keep it, like totally different. Like, where's this coming from? I guess he's just trying to catch up, I guess.
That's a really great observation. It's really interesting that they open sourced it. I don't know with the Llama model. Maybe they were going to keep it private. And I think they had a cybersecurity leak. Since you're in the cybersecurity, I think there was a time that Llama leaked and they lost all their weights. I might be wrong, but I think someone torrented it. Okay.
It might have been. I know their weights are exposed and you can get in. You're not supposed to actually touch them, but people have been able to like get into where they adjust the weights. And there's people like actually that are worried about, open source models, because then you can come up with like there's some weird opportunities for people to do bad things, right? And then you can learn how to build a nuclear bomb or like some of these negative things. It might help you. Like it's not only helping you like solve a problem for business, it's also helping you solve problems for potentially negative things. So
right. Well, free will is an interesting issue.
Usage analytics is going to become more governed in my mind. It's just they're going to want to monitor more and more and more. And that's sad, but I think it's going to happen.
I think it's going to happen too.
Yeah.
So with that, we're coming up on our hour. John, thank you so much for joining us. Ariana, thank you so much for joining us and sharing your story on your unlocking the past, a tale of time and magic. I can't see that far. That's
Ariana, I got to get your autograph now. So when you write your book, I can just have it and then it'll be on my wall and I can be like, I know I was on a podcast with her like years ago.
John, what's the first copy? First edition. You're on for the first edition.
All right.
So with that, everybody, we'll share some great stuff about the AI online classroom. I think it's going to be a great place. You can watch these shows, these podcasts, but also find great content about what you're looking for today, whether you're a new beginner or you want to take the deepest dive into machine learning and neural networks with Stanford or MIT. It's all in one place. Plus, if you want to see Robert Downey Jr. talk about the age of AI, you can do that too. So I'm going to start sharing that more with the group. We want to cover what you want to learn about. Until next time, we'll see you then.
Sounds good. Shout out to Nexogen and Plunk Foundation. I gotta put them out. All right. Thanks, guys.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Brock.
Absolutely. Bye now.